So you want to write for TV, right? Or you want to join a writer's room. Well, assuming that you found that show that inspires you to either write a pilot script, your original television show idea, or write a spec script off of that show, you're going to need to learn a few things. And I want to teach you how to watch TV like a screenwriter, because I think that it is something that is overlooked quite a bit. They always tell you, read that script and read this script. But I think that there needs to be a new way for writers to understand how to watch a show. If you've seen my videos before, you've probably seen my Watch Movies Like a Screenwriter video, and I hope that you enjoyed that. I did mention that I was going to do a separate video on television writing, and this is probably going to be a two-parter. Before you get writing that TV pilot or spec script, I want to go over some of the details of how you can effectively watch TV shows with the mind of a screenwriter. Can we take a second? Because in every writing forum that I'm in or that I join, there's this one common question that keeps reappearing, and it's driving me insane. Which screenwriting software do I use? I can't recommend Arc Studio enough. It is not just a screenwriting software, it's a development tool. Arc Studio is a really intuitive software that has features that make plotting your story efficient, and color coding to mark your character's storyline. It makes it a really visual and customizable workspace. This screenwriting software was most recently used to write the hit, award-winning Netflix show Arcane, based off of League of Legends. Today, Arc Studio has partnered with me and sponsored this video. You can get started with their free plan and get writing right now. But if you click the link down below in my description, you can get $30 off a pro plan today. So let's get started. The first thing I want you to consider when you are sitting down to watch a TV show is, do you want to write a pilot or are you looking to write a spec? Are you going to be watching this in a perspective of, I'm writing my own TV show, or I'm going to look at this from the perspective of a potential staff writing position in the future? And for the most part, a spec script of a TV show is usually a script that's based off of an existing show and used as a writing sample to show that you understand the tone and the voice of the characters and the way that the actual show is formatted. This makes you a candidate to actually be a staff writer on the show. Now, a script pilot is often referred to a television show that has never aired, something that is wholly original to the writer and is the sort of pilot product of what the show will be about. Often you'll see on TV that they have actually listed the very first episode as the pilot episode. Sometimes there's just no title, it's just pilot. This is what you will write and call it if you write something completely original and with the thought in mind that eventually you will pitch this to someone. The next part that you want to consider about your TV show is, what is the platform that it's on? And I know that this isn't really like I'm watching the show and this is how I'm thinking about it as a writer, but when you actually look for that show to watch, you need to be conscious of the platform that it's on. Each of those platforms affects how the act breaks are written, and this is something that's very important to how you structure your show. Now that I've gotten ahead of myself, the next thing you need to look for is, how many act breaks are there? So I've figured out my platform. Maybe it's Hulu, and maybe there's like 4 commercial breaks in between. You want to look and see how many commercials are in between each chapter of the segments that you're watching, and that will inform you of the act breaks. It's hard for me to define exactly what act structure you're going to have to use. You'll just have to splice it out of the TV show that you are watching and check from there. If they're written originally for Netflix, there are no commercial breaks, so they would be likely written on a 3-act structure. The next thing that I want you to be conscious of is runtime. We all know that runtime is pretty specific to split it down the middle between comedy and drama. Drama is going to be a 1-hour runtime for the most part, and that can sort of fluctuate from about 45 minutes to 60 minutes, depending on what you're watching, and sometimes a little over that. We've seen that before, haven't we? K-dramas. at 1 hour and 15 minutes. And comedies are usually set at about 22 to 30 minutes. And of course that fluctuates, and that's usually also due to the commercial breaks. You really do want to pay attention to this because every show sort of has a specific runtime that they go off of. Next, I want you to take into consideration genre and subgenre. I've done too many videos about genre, and I can't stress enough how important it is, because both of these are going to do exactly what I say in probably every video, which is it informs a lot about your story. These genres impact the time that it's going to run on air, it affects the platform that it might go on to, and it informs who and what the story is going to be about. So genres are really, really important to me, and it should be very important to you. So remember to nail down what that show is going to be about genre-wise, and make sure to really tell yourself all of the nuances that go along with that genre and what is being encapsulated in their show. The next thing I want you to be conscious of when you're actually watching the show is the cast size. How large is it? Is it an ensemble TV drama about medical procedures like Grey's Anatomy? Is it a show that's solely based around one character and maybe their zany family? Figure out who the cast is and who's very important. How many people are in this cast that make up the main amount of people who star week after week? Are there guest stars weekly? Are there guest stars infrequently? And how does this dynamic work within their show? There's a lot that goes into the characters and figuring out how many there are, because that determines how many storylines you're gonna juggle. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is it episodic or serialized? These are all really basic things that I'm asking you to really take notice of, but I promise they all tie in and make for a very, very well-written show if you are aware of all of these things, because these are what the professionals consider when they go and they create these shows. So what I want you to do is consider, is it going to be a serialized show, which means that one episode after another, it follows exactly the same storyline, and that is it. There are one storyline that goes through all of these episodes that actually show that arc or that storyline, and that is what your episodes and your show is about. Similar to The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, where basically we're following Mrs. Maisel, who is always the center of attention in each one, and it progresses her storyline each episode. So episodic is going to be each episode can stand alone as its own story. You will notice episodic shows such as Black Mirror and Extraordinary Attorney Woo, in which every single episode has to do with a central conflict that doesn't go into the next episode. For the most part, it is not part of a larger storyline. They're standalone stories that move along the cast and the characters in their own journeys, sort of in the background. You'll also come to find that episodic works pretty well for comedies as well, such as Scrubs, Will and Grace, How I Met Your Mother. Now, you remember when I told you you're going to have to really think about all of the storylines comprised in one episode? Yeah, that's really, really important to figure out in each episode how many storylines are occurring so that you can actually follow that format as well. And that means looking for the ABC storylines, which don't technically go just up to C. You can have a cast of 5 members in which that's A through E. So don't just get caught up on the ABC storylines, although those are the most important. There's going to be at least 3, and sometimes that is cut down to just A and a B storyline as well. It's actually pretty similar to feature writing. Usually you are still writing multiple storylines, and sometimes you just don't recognize it because there's that main storyline and then probably a smaller storyline that may be the antagonist, or it may be some other smaller journey that another character is going through. The A storyline is going to be the most important storyline, and that is your main character. You also want to go into the secondary lead or the supporting lead character, which will be probably the best friend or the mentor, whoever is second most appearing in the show. That is probably going to be your B storyline. And then, of course, the C storyline is prominently and sometimes called the runner. And that means that it can be a third person who is running through the show and tying this all together with their own smaller, shorter storyline. Now, I know I've already explained a little bit about the A, B, and C storylines, but this next part, I just want to reiterate, make sure you know who the main lead character is, and you're studying that storyline heavily because that is the star of the show. That is the most important person in the show. And while you're balancing everything, you don't want to forget to balance that main lead storyline to the best of your ability and making sure they are staying at the top of the show. They are the most important and they are the ones you need to see the most. So make sure that the lead is accurately picked out if you have an ensemble team and you're making sure that you are studying that main character the most out of the whole show. That is your central character, that is your star character. When you're writing that lead character, you have to make sure that you're writing it in the exact style that the show portrays. The character cannot suddenly become a clown if they're going from Mrs. Maisel, the stand-up comedian, to your version. Your version can absolutely not be that she decides she needs to become a clown for children. You have to speak in the same voice as Mrs. Maisel. She has to still be that lovable, charming housewife that she was, that is coming into her own as a woman and becoming more confident in her craft of stand-up comedy. And finally, I want you to use the 3-act structure to your advantage. No matter how many act breaks you have, you're still writing in the same beats of a 3-act structure. So I typically do like to use the 3-act structure and then break it into multiple acts. And I will just divide it. Make sure that midpoint stays in the middle of your script. And from there, I can work my way out to see exactly where I'm going to land on which act and what pages. Because in every script, there still has to be that beginning, middle, and end, and you have to wrap it up for that episode. Whether or not you leave it on a cliffhanger because there's a part 2, there still has to be some sort of a conclusion for that moment or that event. That way you can lead into the next one. I hope you enjoyed my video today, Scribes, and I hope you give me a thumbs up down below to let me know if you want more content like this, and I hope you subscribe to keep watching these videos. I will see you all on the next one.